What a world, DJ Mac. What coming in with an update to our favorite, and it is gonna be the Magnamon deck profile for your retinas. You already know what it is, and this is an absolute dedicated video for my boy Michael Dangle, because he's been waiting 100 days for this update. So I apologize, this brother hasn't been locking in. So in this video, I'm gonna go over the deck ratios, tech, and all the good stuff. So if this is a video for you, stick around and enjoy. And if you're new to the channel, like what you see, then make sure you subscribe and turn the notification bell. I'm gonna say it again, tick the notification bell, because I do videos on the reg. So let's dive in here. I'm gonna try and speed this bad boy up, because most of the people who obviously do watch my content, you know I'm a Magnamon stan, and I've done this a fair few times. So what I'm going to do is keep it short and sweet. Going on with the eggs, standard 4, and that is going to be the Demi Vmon. Obviously, this is crucial in order for you to evo on top of your, obviously, of your Vmons, because some do have a requirement that it just have to be Demi V, and others just have a requirement of just obviously evo on top of a blue. But the good thing here is that all turns are getting additional 1k DP if you are a dual-colored Digimon, which absolutely helps out. So that's it for the eggs. A standard 4. Now going over to the rookies. Rookies haven't really had much of a change apart from the drip, and that is 15 rookies. Starting off with the Vmon of BT16 is going to be, you already know, the blue and red version. This is just helpful for, once again, those DP gains. Obviously, because we are running the Promo Flamedramon in this build, it is key in order for you to essentially raid over bigger targets than the opposition. Its actual your turn does help out in order for you to gain memory if one of your other Digimon with 3 in its traits or green amongst them essentially gains a memory. So if you happen to obviously drop out another Vmon, effectively you're reducing the cost by 1 in effect. Or if you evo into one of your free traded Digimon, then obviously you're going to be gaining that memory, reducing the cost to obviously, you know, evo cost of 2, which is helpful. Then we go in probably one of the best in slot, and that's going to be your Promo Vmon. This is just obviously your draw rookie right here. Absolutely helpful, staple. Never a sad day getting this in the raising area. Also, your turn, if you do have a Davis out, you are able to reduce the Digivolution cost by 1. Really helps with the Magnamon Evos. And also, if you are even into Promo Flame, that means it's obviously going to be costing you 1 instead of 2, which is also nuts. Obviously, when attacking, draw 1 if you are more than 2 colors is going to be helpful for you, because this deck does swing a lot. So once again, getting your pieces in order for you to pop off is just so nice in this build. Then we go on with the Searcher, very key in order for the strats. The Inheritable doesn't do a goddamn thing in this deck, but enable you to possibly net 2 cards, especially if you do draw into your Davis and then draw into another free traded Digimon, is always the worth. And then just to maximize on that consistency is going to be then your starter deck 9 Vmon. This can't pick out a Tamer, but it can definitely get your pieces, because it was just going to pick out a free traded Digimon, which is always the worth. So that then concludes for the rookies. I did say 15 before, it actually is 14, my bad. So going over to then the champions. So champions, a little bit of a reshuffle here as well, just to improve that consistency, especially since we've had Awakening drop down to 1, and that is going to be starting off with your BT8 Magnamon. I absolutely love this Magnamon. Alternate is probably one of my favorites. Just being a blocker, able to unsuspend when evoing, and then also able to gain DP depending on how many armors are in your trash by additional 2k. It just helps out beautifully. Unsuspend is really helpful for this build, especially with some of the tech options that we do run in this particular list. Then the absolute goat, this Mon is just a menace, bro. Like, proccing it off in security, awful. Even just evo into this is just awful. So obviously for us, we're never gonna obviously meet its other requirement of evo for the cost of 4. Never gonna happen. But evo on top of a Vmon is gonna cost you 3. This enables you to essentially, if it is triggered from security, able to de-digivolve 1 Digimon. It can be the opponent's or yourself. And then the battle then commences, and then that's when, if you can evo on top of a Vmon, if you obviously have a Vmon out, and then obviously if you do happen to do that, effectively you'll be able to get is when Digimon with effect is that you're able to trash the top card of the opponent's Digivolution source, and this is dependent on how many colors they have. So if they have 3 colors, you're able to trash the top 3. If they have 2, you're able to trash the top 2. 1, you're able to trash the 1. Which is just fantastic. And then on top of that, you can bounce a Digimon without any sources on the field. So beautiful. Honestly, this card is so good, and this is why you do want to be running that at a glorious 4. Then Promo Flame, we are running set 3. Absolutely GOAT card right here. Unfortunately, it freaking costs us the absolute nuts, but for good reason. It honestly helps your Magnamon to trigger its ability to gain that immunity. Also, it enables you to get some bit of control on the field, because you are able to raid into the opponent's Digimon, and then by doing so, you're able to then bounce the top card of their security stat to their hand. Also, one thing you need to note is that this is not just essentially based on raid. If it's just the attack target is switched, so if the opponent happens to block you, the attack target is switched, meaning that they will bounce one of their security to their hand. So just obviously be vigilant on that. An absolute GOAT card, great card to even just have in raising, because then the opponent is then kind of like in a position of, do I then throw out a searcher? If you do, you're going to lose the security, because I'm going to raid into you. So really solid card running that at 3. You can run it at 2 if you want. Then we do round it off with a BT17 Magnamon running at 1. The reason why is that we've increased our Magnamon count is obviously because the Awakening has dropped. So we need to make sure that we can efficiently get back into our Magnamon X antibody by even on top of our Magnamon card, which is great. Think about it though, people think that I've just think this is trash. I think it's still a stellar card. It's just kind of the weaker out of the bunch that we do have. But having a pseudo armor purge is quite nice, because it's not always that, like, you know, I might get bounced in that sense. This actually still will help me keep a body on board if I do get removed from the field, which is nice, and able to have an option to play out a Vmon from under my source or a new Vmon from my hand, which effectively could search me out some cards. Also, on top of that, if it was going to be removed, you do just basically just have an unconditional draw 1, which is very clutch in this particular list. So I do like the Magnamon. I was tempted to kind of go drop this to 2, not this to 2, just having make sure that my consistency is flawless going into Magnamon X, because when you go into Magnamon X, you feel kind of comfortable with the deck. If you can't get into it, it can be a little bit tricky. But at the moment, I'm just testing it at a 1. I feel like I have enough Magnamons to ensure that I'm going to go into Magnamon X quite comfortably. But obviously, guys, I will let you know. But that then concludes for the Champions 12. So going on to now the Megas. So Megas run 6. Obviously, it's going to be our main boss monster. I think guys already pretty much know what this guy does. Pretty ignorant to whatever effects you've got going on. The thing that's really good here is a side immunity. The immunity really just open up the deck and make it competitive. And I think this deck is not going to be going in anywhere anytime soon, as long as Magnamon X antibody stays at 4. Just being able to protect your main stack, it opens up a lot of plays for your Paladin Ace, in order for you to constantly ace without feeling that it can be literally not off the field and obviously be punished. Also, the thing here is that, you know, able to unsuspend, able to get DP based on your when Digivolving effect is just crucial. Really solid card. Cannot see it going down to 4, because realistically then Bandai's just blundered up on game design. Then we do run the Paladin mode Ace at 1. You could put this to 2 if you want to. For me, because I have the look of the one-off, I seem to just draw my one-offs pretty efficiently. But Blast Ace, but Paladin Mode Ace is just a very strong card and can win you games in this particular build, just because if you either on top of your Magnamon and you're immune to most things, you've stripped all the sources from the opponent, you've probably returned their Digimon to the bottom of the deck in order for you to then kind of multi-swing depending on how many Digimon they have out on field. Obviously, because you do have that immunity, it means that you can effectively freely swing comfortably without feeling like, you know, if they've got a target with no sources but they can potentially ace, because you may have triggered Magnamon's Magnamon X antibody's ability first in order for you to gain that immunity means that this is untouchable. So it's in their best interest to probably not ace, because I mean, they could to keep it out on field, because technically it does have a source, and you know, Paladin mode ace can't bot deck it in that case, but you know, it could still get punished by going into that ace with another option that this deck can do. So I do love Paladin mode. Like I said, you can run up to 2 if you want to. I did find when it was with 2, I found it a little bit bricky, or it was just kind of sitting in my hand and not necessarily doing much. And then we do tech in the Defx. Defx is just such a clutch card, especially versus an Imperial. Just enable you, if they're going to be sitting at their Paildramon, you can literally just throw this down and then just literally just nuke their champions, which are hella annoying. Just really great board control right here. Never a sad day bumping into Defx. And if there are very Tamer heavy decks, you know, you're playing this out for free. Obviously, we new support with EX7. We do have a lot of decks that do spawn out a lot of Tamers. Obviously, we've got Zavargamon that spawns out a lot of Tamers. You've got Sendrilmon, spawns out a lot of Tamers. So playing this out for free and controlling their board is an absolute win right there, especially with obviously with the tokens and so forth. So that concludes that for the Megas 6. Going over to the options 13. So there's a lot of changes in regards to the options, and this is where the discussion's kind of going to go in. So I might actually delay the video a little bit, but I want to just kind of thoroughly go over the choices that I have made. So obviously we do know that EX7 has welcomed the old Shoto, which can grant anyone blocker. So we need to make sure that when we are facing said Shoto, we're kind of teched for it. So we do run 2 high speed plugins for that specific matchup. But you're probably thinking, you know, why are we just running cards for that particular matchup? To be honest, high speed plugin is actually very universal for majority of matchups, because obviously, you know, for us, it enables us to effectively not be blocked, which is pretty key in order for us to ensure that Magnamon can swing to security and effectively, you know, trigger its effects or actually just claim game, which is nice. But another thing with this as well is that it grants our Digimon jamming. So even if we didn't happen to bump into Shoto, we can still just use this card and give our card jamming. Which is kind of beneficial right there and universal. So it's not just a waste of card for that particular one matchup. The thing that's really helpful as well is that security effect is enabled to draw one and then add this card to hand, which ensures that if we don't happen to have this card by searching and so forth, and it was propped out of security, at least it's going to hand and we've managed to draw additional cards as well. Don't get me wrong, Mirage will have an absolute field day if we happen to draw a card, they're able to get the memories and all that good stuff. But you know, if it happens, it happens. But this is a very solid card, especially in this meta, and I think it is a fantastic meta call without punishing you so much to other matchups. Then the thing that's really going to be spicy here is going to be the 2 X antibodies from BT9. So you're probably thinking, this is hella freaking new here, Dread, what's going on? So the good thing about X antibody is that it actually enables us to be slightly more aggressive with our Magnamons whilst actually going into our Magnamon X antibody, and then obviously able to unsuspend and obviously gain our immunity and so forth. But the good thing about this is when you kind of versing the mirror or versing any decks that can use Paladin Ace, is that it wouldn't be able to strip this out from the source, meaning that it can't actually bot deck it and unsuspend and get another attack in. So it's really helpful in those instances. On top of that, being procced from security enables you to gain the memory. So a little pseudo kind of, I won't say hammer spark, because hammer spark obviously gains 2 memory, but it enables you to disrupt plays, and it's sort of like a hammer spark, just a slightly toned down version. But I think this actually opens up a lot of plays in this strat, and I've taken inspiration from JP, and I think it definitely holds up to what this deck is doing, whilst giving you a lot more lines of play. Then going over to the standard staples is going to be then your Blinding Ray. We all know what Blinding Ray does, activates our Magnamon X antibody, whilst obviously then able to gain 2 memory. If we don't have any security, we can just gain 2 memory, which is absolute pop off in order for you to, if you do have Paladin mode Ace, you can just use this, gain the memory in order for you to evo into Paladin Mode Ace and just win. It's absolutely nutty what this card can provide. And then going over to the one-off text is going to be, let's just slide it over here a little bit. It's going to be obviously our one-off Awakening. We know what Awakening does. Cheats into Magnamon X antibody for the cost of 3 or a Magnamon. So it doesn't necessarily have to evo into Magnamon X antibody. You can evo into another Magnamon, which is kind of a pretty nifty play. Proctum security, able to get a Magnamon in name from your trash, and then add that card as well to hand, which is helpful. Really solid card, to be honest. Even though if it's restricted to 1, I think it's absolutely fine. If you get it, if you see it, you see it. If you don't, you don't. Another one of is going to be then the Final Zoom Punch. This can be absolutely flexible in terms of what you want to use this space for. For me, I like Final Zoom Punch out of the options of either using Fire Rocket or Lightning Blade. Lightning Blade is great when you are using it with Promo Flamedramon, just because you're able to raid and also pierce, meaning that you can do 2 checks, which is pretty nifty whilst controlling the board. But the thing that I didn't like is that if you are running it as a one-off, you want to make sure that if it's in security, I can get it to hand to actually use it. Because with Lightning Blade and Fire Rocket, if it's in security, I will either be able to delete a Digimon with blocker, or I'm able to suspend a opponent's Digimon, but I won't necessarily get that card to my hand. With Final Zoom Punch, it doesn't actually have a main security effect of doing anything, it just obviously adds to my owner's hand. But what this means is that I'm able to give my Magnamon blocker, reboot, an additional 3000 DP as well, which is actually helpful, especially if we are evoing into our Paladin mode Ace, which is helpful in order for us to evo into that, obviously still have the DP boost and still have blocker. So if they was good, obviously, then still swing, I can block, and I've stripped their sources. And this has come up a lot. So that's the reason why I've chosen Final Zoom Punch as just a nice cheeky one-off over the other options. But it's not necessarily, it might not necessarily be the right option, but it's the one for me that has proven to be effective. Then we do run the 2 mental trainings. Mental trainings obviously enables us to essentially reduce cost to evo into our Magnamon X antibody, and this is pretty much what the remaining 2 that I had of Awakening has been replaced with. Absolutely helpful, and I think as well on top of that it helps with consistency, because we're obviously able to throw this down, reveal top 2 and pick a blue card from a monster reveal, which is absolutely helpful for us. Obviously it helps us to kind of get into a high speed plugin, which is nice, because obviously say when Shoto's out and you may get your pants pulled down by the freaking mother Shoto, that matchup's gonna be awful. But at least with this, yeah, so you gotta flip that shit in reverse. Then we go lastly with the blue memory boost. I do love blue memory boost, and I'm still an advocate for running this at 4, if I'm honest. It just helps out massively in terms of consistency, that memory gain, perfect. The dig 4 is huge in this deck, because we do run a high count of options, so enable us to dig 4 and get a blue Digimon is really helpful right there. But I think now that we do have mental training, we have other lines of play that we can use in order for us to get our key pieces and keep up momentum. So that concludes there for the options. Solid 13. Then we round it off with the Tamers. So the Tamers right here is going to be a cheeky 5. So we've completely changed up the Tamer lineup here, and this is just more for, once again, keeping up with that consistency. So we do run the BT3 Davis. The reason being is that 1 memory setter, 2 able to reveal top 3 and just basically get a Digimon. Because we don't run any green Digimons apart from our Paladin mode, the likelihood of us netting 2 cards is slim, but if we do happen to net a Paladin mode Ace and a blue Digimon, absolutely winning off that, which is great. Also memory setter, crucial, and also we can grab it from our BT12V. Then lastly, we just round it off with the Promo V. Promo Davis there as well. Once again, just absolutely staple in order for us to play out a Vmon from hand. And then if we happen to have a free trait Digimon out on the field at the start of our main, we're able to gain a memory, which is just obviously what we want. These two in tandem, going to be gaining 4 memory. 4 memory is a lot with this particular deck right here. And I think before I did run Shuyulin. I absolutely love Shuyulin. Absolutely fantastic card. But I think for the sake of consistency, we got to go with the Davis again. We have to go with the Davis again, because sometimes you do run out of gas and steam if you just not got no actual fuel to keep it going. And Shuyulin didn't necessarily give you that fuel. It gave you Shuyulin supported when you were set up and you're cooking and you're ready to go. The reboot is absolutely handy. The alliance is great. But I feel like because of the other tech options that we do have and the aggression that we do get from our other cards, I think we can probably lean more on the Davis just to ensure that we got that consistency. So that concludes there for the Tamers and the new deck list. So, Michael, my boy, I hope that was good for you, Chief, and good for everyone else. And if it was, make sure you drop a like as standard. Really helps out with the channel. But guys, stay safe, stay fly, try and dodge Shoto Mother, and keep it real. D-Dread off the mic.